there is my chance to finally be with my crush. So I need your help, y'all. Ha! Joel Embiid. Hashtag NBA vote.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and as always you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. What we're going to be doing today, of course, is looking back at all of Wednesday's action, all 10 games, and then previewing a moderately sized 6-game Thursday slate. So,
let's get to it.
That is indeed a very good idea. All right, let's start, of course, with the monstrous line of the night. And this monstrous line of the night was decided in the very final seconds of the final game of the night when Kevin Durant blocked 2 shots with about 1 second left, which I'm sure helped a lot of people DFS-wise and hurt a lot of people DFS-wise with those 2 late blocks. But he had a tremendous game all around. 22 points for Durant, 17 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 triples, 5 blocks. He was 8 of 15 from the field. He hit 3 of his 5 free throws, so a little bit down in the free throw area, but still a fantastic game from Durant. And Durant is your number 1 player in 8-cat leagues this season. I don't know if many people knew that. I don't know if many people expected that. Well, I know we didn't expect that because we didn't have him as number 1 coming into the year, but he has been ridiculous, and he's had such a jump in his efficiency. We're talking 54% from the field and 40% from 3, which are both up from last year. The scoring has dipped, yes. The 3-pointers have dipped from 2.6 to 1.9, but more rebounds, more blocks, more steals, and better efficiency. So providing basically identical value, just in slightly different areas. And you feel there's no way that Durant is dropping out of this top 3 or top 4 this season. He did have that little stretch a couple of weeks ago where his numbers were, I guess, a little bit depressed through that mid-December range where his numbers weren't quite where they needed to be. But recently, he's been ridiculously strong. The lowest points total he has scored in his last 6 games has been 22. He's done that twice. He's had a 34, a 26, a 32, and a 36 in those games. 3 of those games have yielded double-digit rebounds, and he's blocked shots in 4 of the 6 as well. So really putting up some monster-type performances with crazy efficiency as well. In that 6-game stretch, he's had 2 games where he's shot over 70% from the field. And we're not talking limited attempts, 18 and 13. Huge numbers from Durant, and his efficiency has obviously been through the roof this season. And at 6, that's something we could have expected, better efficiency on a team like the Warriors. The waiver wire line of the night goes to Joakim Noah of the New York Knicks. I don't know if many people would have expected Joakim Noah to be getting many awards this season. 14 points for Noah, 16 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 5 of 8 from the field, and 4 of 4 from the line. And to be honest, his numbers have actually improved recently. He's looked a lot fresher in the last couple of weeks, and consequently his minutes have gone up. In fact, he's averaging 24 over the last 2 weeks, but 29 minutes a game over the last 3, and that's pushed him well inside the top 100 in that last week. He's a top 70 player, top 65 player. Is he a must-own guy? No, he's not. But what he is doing, and that's really contributing to the increase in ranking, is over the last 2 weeks, he's hitting 85% of his free throws. For the year, he's at 45. Last year, he was at 49. And I don't know which one is the correct Joakim Noah, because we go back to the 13-14 season, he was a 74% shooter, and then 60, and then 49, and now 45. But then with a stretch of 85. So which one is it? He's also averaging double-digit rebounds over the last 2 weeks. The assists aren't there, not doing much defensively, steals and blocks, 0.7 and 0.7, which is okay. But those rebounds are really tasty. And if you can keep the free throws up, then there might be a spot for Joakim Noah on a 12-team roster. I don't think that you want to look at him in 10-team leagues. I think that you can stream him in if you're just really struggling for defensive stats. And the important thing, though, to look at is the minutes, though. The last 4 games, 30 minutes, 22 minutes, 28, 38. That shows that there's more confidence from Jeff Hornacek, that there's more confidence from Noah in his own body, and his play level has increased as well. So that's the important part of it, I believe, and that's sort of the direction it's trending, and that obviously puts a pin in Kyle O'Quinn and Billy Hernan Gomez if Noah's going to be getting 30 minutes a night. I'm not sure if he gets 30 a night, but high 20s could be a possibility, at least for this short-term stretch, and that makes him a useful player. So go and have a look at Noah, see if he fits your team. He won't fit every team, and as we mention, or as I mention all the time, it's never just about who's a better player, rank this player, because that's a load of shit. It doesn't mean anything in the end. It's how does this guy fit your team? Who are you dropping? Does that change make your team better or worse? Does it make your team better against playoff teams and worse against non-playoff teams? Then you probably do it. Does it make you better overall but worse against the playoff teams? Then it's probably not a good idea. So there's so much context involved in looking at fantasy basketball and fantasy basketball trades. So that's why I'm always loath and why I refused to put out big boards at the start of the season, and not a massive fan of ranking type questions. But if you want to hear more about this latest Joakim Noah resurgence, Locked On Knicks is the podcast you want to go to. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, much like this podcast is. Jared Dubin hosts Locked On Knicks, and he'll talk about Noah's recent revival. He'll talk about Carmelo Anthony's ejection today, the play of Derrick Rose, the play of Kristaps Porzingis, the play of all the Knicks. But even if it's not the Knicks that you want to hear about, the Locked On Podcast Network has a podcast that's going to suit you. Whatever your team is, we've got a podcast covering it. You like the Nuggets? Why wouldn't you? Apart from infuriating coaching. You can listen to Adam Maris over there talking about my boy Nikola Jokic. You want to hear about the Celtics? Listen to Jay and John on Locked On Celtics. Locked On Heat, Wes and David. Yeah, there's podcasts for every NBA team, plus Locked On NBA with David Locke, who records once a week and has a lot of high-profile front office guys, head coaches. He had Quinn Snyder on last week, and that's a great chat about the overall view of the NBA. So make sure you are checking out Locked On Knicks and the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network. The young gun of the night. Yep, it's a Knicks double today. I had numerous options here. I could have gone Towns. I could have gone Nick Jokic, who all put up massive numbers, which we'll get to a little bit later. But Porzingis was the guy that came out in the rankings as the number one second or first year player. 24 points for Chris, 8 boards, 4 triples, 1 assist, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 7 of 17 from the field as well. Just another night where Porzingis, puts up big numbers. Now, he did miss a couple of key free throws down at the end, resulting in a 6 of 9 night from the line, but he is still a top 30 player on the year, and had dipped a little bit prior to that with some poor shooting, but yeah, he's fairly comfortable. And the 3-pointers is really what's really helping him, especially given he's going at 41% from 3 for the year and 45% over the last 6 games. He's averaging 20 and 7.5, 2 blocks and over 2 threes a game as well, and does have some scope to maybe increase his steals, which he has done over the last 2 weeks. He's up to 1 a game. And if you could get those assists to 2.5, we'd be talking top 15 sort of numbers. His passing is fine. It just doesn't really translate into assists, so he can execute passes, he can dribble, he can do that sort of stuff, but he's not a guy that's setting up other players for better shots, and that's what translates to assists. So he's still a fair way off doing that, but get him to two assists, 2.5 assists maybe, then we're talking about a significant boost in his value. But Kristaps again gets himself the young gun of the night. Speaking of getting the award multiple times, it is time for the dud of the night, and I did have word from my stat keeper Barry Baker, one of my stat keepers, Barry Baker, who said that Rod Hood has the most duds of the night. I'm going to guess that Aaron Gordon's pretty close to it now. He gets another dud of the night. He had 2 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists on 1 of 5 shooting for Az. I don't know. I don't even know what to say with this guy anymore. He had 30 points in the last game. He had 2 in this one. And this is the issue. Again, I say this all the time, is he will have a big game like he did in the last one, 30 points in 35 minutes. And then he plays 25 minutes. Now, he wasn't great, but he only took 5 shots. It wasn't like he was out there missing 11 of his 12 shots or anything like that. He just didn't get as much of an opportunity. And that's the thing that pisses me off about Frank Vogel's coaching. You're trying to force him into a new position, make him learn the position, then you don't give him enough reps at that position, or you don't play him long enough to play through the issues. We know how high his ceiling is. We know that his potential is probably top 75 for this year. But just getting there is real tough. He's barely inside the top 200 on the season so far. No reason to own him in 10-team leagues and in 12-team leagues. I guess it depends on who's around. Yeah, the potential is very tantalizing. I'd be inclined to just piss him off and move on. In a 14-teamer, I hold, but it's getting frustrating. It's clearly getting frustrating. We can see the potential there. The problem is just how that potential gets utilized and how the coaching staff decides to use him, which is a real a real pain, I guess, in terms of trying to work out how his value goes long term. So it's been a frustrating exercise, frustrating from a team building standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, and from a fantasy standpoint. But Aaron Gordon is your dud of the night once again. All right, let's get into these games now and start looking at them in a little bit of extra detail. The first game we're going to look at is the Indiana Pacers. They took on the Washington Wizards and got beaten. Paul George, who had been struggling a little bit from three, hit 6 triples here, so that's a nice little boost. 34 points, 4 assists and a steal, and did it efficiently, going 10 of 20 from the field and 8 of 8 from the line. So a welcome return to form for Paul George owners. Miles Turner was decent, 15 and 8 with 3 blocks, while Thad Young, the Thad Young steals machine, 11, 6 and 3 for Thad, played 35 minutes and had 6 steals, and that's really where so much of his value has come over his career. And after a really shaky start this year, he's getting it cranking again and getting a lot of steals recently. Jeff Teague, he had 19 points, he had 11 assists, he had a steal, he had a 3. He had really decent numbers again. The ball running through him a lot more than I thought it would. And with Monte Ellis back, I don't really think it affects Teague because Ellis has been such a limited part of what the Pacers have done. Now, Ellis returned, he played his 18 minutes off the bench, but don't be looking at it and thinking it's just total minutes restriction, because before he went down, he was playing 23 a night. So, yeah, he'll get more than 18, but I don't think he goes back to 30 or 33 and is a real impact guy or someone that you need to go and own in 10 or 12 or maybe 14, 10 leagues. I'd probably own him in 14, but nothing shallower than that. CJ Miles had a decent night, 15 points in 25 minutes with 4 triples. That was with Rod Stuckey out. Leave CJ for the probably 14 to 16 team leagues. Over at the Wizards side of things, Johnny Wall was great, 36, 11, and 9 with 2 steals and 2 triples and insane efficiency as well. 11 of 19 from the field and 12 of 13 from the free throw line. Wall has been incredibly good this year, a lot better than I think people or anyone could have anticipated coming off double knee surgery. Yeah, he had those couple of annoying early rests in the season, but since then he is taking on a huge load and producing. Otto Porter, 1 shot he took in the first half. And this is coming after Scott Brooks said we need to make sure he gets 6 to 7 3-point attempts per game. Well, he ended up taking 6, but 1 shot and a half is ludicrous. He did have some foul trouble, so he only played 11 minutes, and he got it going in the second half, taking 9 shots. But it's just not on. He continues to be efficient, 22 points, but nothing else happening for Porter here. 3 triples, 1 rebound, 0 assists, steals, and blocks. But it was starting to look like a really frustrating night for Otto. Marcin Gortat, another 41 minutes for him. I just get the feeling he's going to break in half at some point. 13, 16, and 4 for Gortat with a steal. Mahinmi's out for extended time, so the minutes are still going to be there, but it's just a real concern how much he's playing. Markieff Morris also had foul issues. 26 minutes for Markieff, 10 and 7 with a steal. Now, Brad Beal only lasted the 18 minutes because he sprained his ankle. He actually twisted it twice in the first quarter, came back and played, and then was out after halftime. 12, 1 and 2 for Beal with 2 steals and a 3. He says it's not serious, but it is on the same leg that he's had the stress reaction issues before. Not saying that's related necessarily, but it's obviously a watch this space. I would imagine that Beal misses a game or 2. And who jumps up in his spot? Well, no one that's really going to be worth looking at in standard leagues. You're going to get more Marcus Thornton. You're going to get some Sheldon McClellan. But neither of those guys are going to be players to add. You would look at Thornton in maybe an 18-team league as a short-term stream option. But obviously frustrating. But what can you expect? It's Brad Beal. Injuries are just going to come with this guy. It's just the territory, I guess. Especially when he gets misused. Charlotte and Orlando. The Hornets killed him. And Nick Batum is killing everyone. He played under 30 minutes and had 20 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 triples and a steal. And he is a top 15 player over the last 2 weeks. And the best thing about his numbers over the last 2 weeks is he's top 15, but he's not doing it on, say, 58% shooting. He's at like 44% standard percentage numbers for Batum. He's just getting a ton of assists. He's at over 2 steals, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, 20 points a game over that time frame. So huge numbers from Batum, and I want this guy in the All-Star team. Let's NBA vote Nick Batum. I reckon he deserves it. He's been fantastic since he arrived in Charlotte and has been a really good fantasy contributor yet again. Kemba only played the 25 minutes because this game was a blowout, 21, 3 and 5 for Walker, while MKG, taking on the extra responsibility without Marco Bellinelli, played 30 minutes, 12, 6 and 4 with 2 steals. And what this highlights to me is that I guess the fantasy breakout we were hoping for Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is real, but he's only playing 24 minutes a night when everyone's healthy, meaning he can't be a breakout guy, meaning he can't be a 12-team league guy. If he's getting back to 30, 31 a night, then absolutely there's room for him in a 12-team league. But when he goes from 31 to 24 minutes because Bellinelli's closing out games, then there's no reason to own Kidd-Gilchrist. He's been fantastic in the games that Bellinelli's out, but that's all that it is at this point. Jeremy Lamb also played 28 minutes. He had 14 points. He had 4 rebounds in his 28 minutes. He's taking on the Bellinelli role off the bench, really just a deeper league sort of a guy there. While Cody Zeller had some issues with his finger, but he was back. He dislocated his finger. He came back and played and was fine. 10 and 5 in 24 minutes. Glad to see his ownership percentage just tick over the 50% mark, but still has to be a 12-team league guy to me. For the Magic, Serge Ibaka started out hot. He had 20 points, I believe, in the first half and finished the game with 20 points. 7 boards, 2 triples, 3 blocks. Has been a top 20 player over the last couple of weeks, but it's coming on the back of 56% shooting, which I don't believe will stick, and he's over 2 blocks a game there, sort of going in contrary to the career trend, I guess. So I'd expect some regression from Serge. Should still be a top 50 guy, but top 20 is probably pushing it. Nick Vucevic, again, dominant off the bench, 21, 6 and 4, 3 steals and a block in his 27 minutes. Every time you look at Vooch, this is what I do. I look at it and go, man, imagine if he was getting 32 a night, as he should be in my opinion. But imagine if he was getting that sort of playing time. We'd be looking at a top 30 guy. Unfortunately, and I do mention this a lot, that coming off the bench doesn't necessarily matter, but he comes off the bench and plays 27 a night. And you can come off the bench like Tobias Harris, who we'll talk about later, and play 32 a night, and makes no difference. But Vucevic coming off the bench limits his total ceiling on what he can do. Unless you're Alvin Gentry, it is harder to get more minutes when you don't start the first 6 games. When you don't start the first 6 minutes of the season. I'm really struggling. Trying to make a joke and it just didn't come out. Evan Fournier out again with his heel. So Jody Meeks started. Just had another solid night. 11 points with 2 steals in 21 or 22 minutes. There's not a lot to see with Meeks. It's just a deeper league sort of a guy. While Mario Hezonja had been fairly horrible most of this season. He's actually already had 12 DMP CDs, but played 12 minutes here. Had 10 points, 2 triples. The first time he'd gotten over 10 minutes a game since the start of November. And his shooting actually over the last few games has been much improved. I think you need to look at Hezonja in dynasty formats, and you got to require him while he's at his lowest point. Because he might not work out, but you can legit get him for nothing in a lot of dynasty formats at the moment. Like, I got him thrown into a trade today, in a trade that I did, a 16-team dynasty league. I gave away Mo Harkless, I gave away Justin Anderson, and I gave away a first-round rookie pick in a 16-team league where I believe I'm currently sitting 4th, and this trade should push me into the top 1 or 2. So looking at, say, pick 14 to 16 in a rookie draft, Harkless, Justin Anderson, I got back Kevin Love in that trade. And then I said, well, look, you're going to have to drop someone anyway. Who are you going to drop? And the other person I was talking to said, I'll drop Isaiah Whitehead. Okay. Cool. I'll go, how about you give me Hezonja instead? Oh, fine, no worries. So I just got him chucked in. And this is not for me to, not calling out the person I traded with. Totally have your ideas, but I'm just giving you an illustration of where his value sits, or how low he's valued. He was just literally a throw-in player that I just said, just give me Hezonja. All right, cool, done. There it is, and got him. He was pretty good tonight. Let's hope it continues and he can force his way into a regular role. Bismack Biyombo, the 22 minutes, 5 and 4 with a block. Really, really tough to own him in 12-team leagues. Only in certain situations, depending on what you need, I guess. Lord Alfred Payton wasn't great, 4, 3 and 4 in his 27 minutes, but again, did play more than DJ Augustine, who played the 16. Still need to keep holding Lord Alfred. The next game we take a look at was a weird game. I think that's probably fair to say. The New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. It did go to overtime. Mallow got ejected for what I consider a very, very, very soft foul. Some of the descriptions coming across Twitter, Mallow choked him and then elbowed him in the face. Like, calm down. No, he didn't. He didn't elbow him. You think that's an elbow, man? That is not. That is nothing. It was, and then then Tabo got pissed and got in his face, and Mello got ejected for a flagrant 2. As soft as it gets, and some of you will disagree with that, it is soft. It is a horrible, horrible call to say that that's a flagrant. There was a worse one later on, but it at least didn't get Dwight ejected. But this was horrible. Horrible. Anyway, talked about Noah, talked about Porzingis. No Courtney Lee in this one, so Justin Holiday didn't get the start. Sasha Vujacic got the start, because when you've got an opportunity to play Sasha Vujacic 27 minutes, you have to take it every time. So Jeff Hornacek did take that opportunity. Vujacic had 2 and 5, and Justin Holiday played the bulk of the minutes, as he should. 14, 3 and 4 for Justin in 34 minutes, 2 triples, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. And if he could somehow find his way into 30 minutes a night due to a long-term injury, then he would have value, because he gets steals at a pretty high rate, his passing's underrated, and he can hit threes, and that can be useful in league. So he's always a name to watch. I talked about Noah already. Koch, only the 13 minutes, 6 and 4 with a steal and a block, while Billy Hernan-Gomez had no points in 10 minutes. I still think O'Quinn is a 14-team, maybe 16-team guy, probably 14 still. Hernan-Gomez is like a 16, 18-team league sort of a player. Brandon Jennings also wasn't awesome. 2, 4, and 3 with a steal and a block, while Derrick Rose went 26, 7, and 6, and the 6 assists from Rose is nice. The 9 of 28 shooting is not. And in true Derrick Rose tradition, no threes and no steals. The Hawks. I talked about it before. That flagrant 1 on Dwight Howard was stupidly bad. It was horrible, 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 horrible. But he still played well. 16 and 22 for Dwight, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. He went 6 of 9 from the field. He was 4 of 6 from the line. And Dwight Howard, even including his free throw percentage, is a top 20 player over the last couple of weeks, including his free throw percentage. So that's how good he has been recently. And you got a bargain in a punt free throw setting if you drafted Dwight Howard, because he's putting up good numbers aside from that little back spasm issue. 40 minutes for Dennis Schroeder, 27 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals, while Tabo, again proving that he should be a 12-team league guy, 11 and 6 with a couple of steals there. Kyle Korver chucked in 3 triples in his 13 points, and Paulie Millsap, another fairly horrible night, to be honest. He went 4 of 20 for 12, 7 and 6, still did it in the peripheral categories with a steal, a 3, and 2 blocks, but that shooting percentage is obviously fairly horrible. And speaking of fairly horrible, Kent Bazemore shot 4 of 12 from the field. Now, Bazemore ran the point for big chunks of this game, which is weird. 40 minutes for Bazemore, 11 points, 4 assists. And I don't think he's a good player. You're well aware of that. But I still think that he can own him in a 12-team league, because obviously Budenholzer has got no issue with running him big minutes. It's basically happened since he came back from that knee issue. You've probably got to be in a punt field goal percentage situation, but he will occasionally get these assist numbers. If he's going to run backup point, that's interesting. He gets decent steals, and he's just, probably, if you own him, he's going to be your 12th best guy, or maybe even your 13th best guy. But despite how poor I think he is, if the coach thinks that he's worthy of playing those minutes, then fantasy stats in some degree are going to come. You just got to deal with the deficiencies that he has, and I won't say occasional, because it's more than occasional. The occasional, I'll say occasional, but you know what I mean. The shit night where he scores 2 or 3 points, because that happens way more than it should for anyone who is a good player. Timmy Hardaway Jr. was back from his groin injury, just played the 13 minutes. I don't think he was completely right, though. Next up, we look at the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons. Jabari Parker, man, 31, 9, and 7 for Jabari. And he hit 4 triples. In his first 2 seasons, Jabari Parker hit 13 three-pointers. He's hit 38 this season. He has taken that up tremendously. He has elevated his game. He is a real threat offensively. And if he can work in increased rebounding, which we saw here, the passing, which was fantastic, and do something defensively, then we're talking about a guy who could theoretically be a top 30 type fantasy guy. At the moment, he's inside the top 60, and the last couple of weeks he's poking his head around the top 20. But we're seeing a real evolution in him, and Giannis are a real tough combo to stop. Now, Gianni wasn't fantastic, but this is what has been the story for him. I think I've got such high expectations for him now. 23, 5, and 8 with 2 steals in this game. Tone Snell had a decent, actually a very good night for Snell. Didn't miss a shot, so the Tony Snell heat check series is on, I guess. 4 of 4 from the field, 11 points, 3 triples, 6 rebounds. Another decent night for Snell, but leave him for the 16-teamers. Brogdon's coming. 28 minutes for Broggo, 8 points, 1 rebound, 8 assists, 1 steal. Dellavedova, under 20 minutes. They played point guard. They didn't play next to each other. They split the point guard minutes, and Brogdon got the minutes. Daly will have... Look, Daly could come out the next game and play 27 minutes and have 10 assists. And such is the frustration with Jason Kidd and his often nonsensical rotations. But Brogdon's flying. He's coming up. I think he's a 14-team league guy for now. But as you'll hear when I talk about someone else a little bit later...
Bite my shiny metal ass.
Yep. Maybe taking a grab of someone a couple of weeks early might pay off. And Brogdon could be that guy because it's definitely trending in his direction. Every game that he plays, you see the chatter come around I see the chatter come around on Twitter. Man, Brogdon's good. I even saw people today like, is Brogdon legit the best rookie that's in this draft class? That's how comfortable his level of play is, and Kidd is getting more comfortable with him, and these minutes are getting to feel like they're real. So have a look at him. 14 teamers, yep. 12s, I guess it depends on who you drop, but if you want to be a step ahead, Brogdon might be that guy. Johnny Henson's minutes are on the dip. 19 minutes for John, 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 blocks. So still getting the 2 blocks, and that's useful, but he is really falling out of favour with Kidd, and that's to be expected. That is to be expected with Kidd, and with Henson, and with the Kidd-Henson combo, which is just something that they seem to do. Like, Henson will put up a good game, Kidd won't be impressed. I don't know, it's just some sort of weird bullshit thing that they go back and forward with. 10-team leagues, Henson can go. 12-team leagues, hey, maybe. If you're just really dependent on those blocks, they're still coming, but gone are the days when he gets 27 a night. Greggy Munro, in a bit of a blowout, played some extra minutes, 14, 5, and 6 with 2 steals and a block in 27 for Greg. I would be holding Munro over Henson, and that's got nothing to do with me hoping for a trade. I never hold people hoping for a trade until we get close to the trade deadline, and then I'll grab guys in that sort of a scenario, maybe a week or so out, but never hold them months in advance hoping for a trade. But regardless, Munro, remember when Kidd had him out of the rotation? There are so many... We're going to look back at this season and look at stuff and say, what the hell was that coach thinking? And it happens so often when you look at it and go, everyone can see this, why aren't you seeing it? When Munro just didn't play at all. Because we had to get Miles Plumlee in there. Whew. Yeah, but regardless of holding for a trade for Munro, his numbers now are good enough to be owned in 12-team leagues. So I think you should. He has really put in a concerted effort this season and has improved in numerous areas. And getting 6 assists out of him is obviously huge. Jason Terry trying to battle Sasha Vujacic for I can't believe this guy is getting rotational minutes. Terry played 20. Who are the top 4 in that? It's got to be Vujacic. It's got to be Metta World Peace. Jason Terry, and the other bloke who I cannot believe he doesn't get rotation minutes, but I can't believe he's on the NBA roster. John Lucas in Minnesota. They're my top 4 of. Why are you on an NBA roster anywhere? Surely there's D-League players who are... Not surely. There are 100% D-League players who deserve to be on rosters ahead of these guys. For the Pistons, I touched on it before. Toby Harris off the bench, 31 minutes for Toby, 23 and 12 with 2 triples, led the team in scoring, and is killing it in this new role. Really, really suits what he can do. So another reason not to panic when a benching gets announced. It's actually been beneficial for him. It was good to see Reggie Jackson play 34 minutes. Don't get your hopes up. That doesn't happen often. 14, 3, and 6. Had a block, had a 3, and shared the court with Ish Smith quite a bit too. So that's an interesting wrinkle that we haven't really seen from Van Gundy so far. I suppose the Pistons have got to try anything. They got pumped. They got absolutely destroyed in this one. So they had to try a few things. I don't think it means you need to do anything with Ish. Maybe a 16-teamer if you can get 22 minutes and get 4 assists, that can be useful. But otherwise, just watch this space, I guess. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope also had 7 assists. He had 6 points in his 30 minutes. Well, Johnny Lua has been poor in his 3 starts. Not a top 100 player in that time frame. Only had 9, 7, and 4 here in 29 minutes. It was absolutely the right move to grab him. But say you're in a 10-team league, I reckon you see what else is out there. If there's someone else around, I'd be okay to move on. And even in a 12-teamer, I'd be considering it because... As we've seen, Toby Harris is still doing what he does, and nothing much is really changing with Lua. He's a little bit lost in that starting unit, and that might change, but it hasn't taken a step forward. Marcus Morris is terrible, 11 points in 23 minutes. Not a 10-teamer, not even a 12-teamer. Well, Andre Drummond was not at his best, 16 and 9. in 26 minutes. Brooklyn and Chicago. Brookie Lopez, a career-high 5 triples, 34 minutes, 33 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and absolutely abused his brother. Took him out onto the perimeter, dunked in his face at the end of the game. Just big numbers from Brook. And again, we can look back at the start of the year, and I said that you might look back and criticise some coaches, but we can look back and look at the collective panic about Brook Lopez and be pretty happy about where it's ended up. Now, Lin was out. They said that the Lin injury is a different hamstring injury to the one he had. Same leg, different part of the hamstring, and nowhere near as severe. So hopefully we're getting a Chris Paul type of hamstring that costs 2-3 games instead of 40 days that Lin missed the first time. With Lin out, it goes to Sean Kilpatrick, and he showed that again. 18, 3 and 6 with 4 triples and a steal. Got to own Kilpatrick while Lin is out. Non-negotiable. Isaiah Whitehead started 4-2-2 with a couple of blocks in 19 minutes. Add him in 16 or 18 team leagues because he's not playing 30 minutes. And it just gives Spencer Dinwiddie some extra time, and you look at him and say a 30-team league. Don't know why we're getting 28 minutes of Randy Foye, but 11 and 5 for Foye, deeper leagues, but it's a factor of Lin being out. And Rondé Hollis-Jefferson wasn't himself. He was dealing with an illness. He was questionable to play coming in. 7 points with 2 steals in his 18 minutes. Still remains a guy to watch and snag in maybe a slightly deeper 12-teamer. Trevor Booker also, the minutes aren't there for him anymore. 26, 6 points. 14 boards, no steals. The steal numbers, they weren't just a historically high level for him. They were like a league leading level, and that was always going to come back down, and it has now. And his usefulness in standard leagues is pretty close to expiring. Also, Karis LeVert had himself a nice little 1-1, just the 3 points, but you know that he's very, very firmly placed on the My Boys list. For the Bulls, Jim Butler sprained his ankle, stayed in the game, hit the game winner, and was huge. And he'd been slumping. He is barely a top 50 player over the last 2 weeks, but this was huge. 40, 11 and 4, 4 steals, and a 3 as well, and did it very efficiently, going 11 of 11 from the line and 14 of 29 from the field. Good for him to break out of that slump. Dwayne Wade only played the 22 minutes, had to leave due to a migraine issue. 16 and 4 for Wade with a block. Still obviously produced in limited minutes, but he should be right moving forward. Rajon Rondo just put up horrible defense, and he's a terrible player, but stats-wise, it's nice. 5, 9, and 12 with 2 steals. Still didn't take a free throw. It was 2 of 8 from the field. I believe the stat was today of all players who have taken 3 shots at the rim for the season, he has the worst finishing percentage. He just can't do anything really, but yeah, still producing those numbers. Michael Carter-Williams isn't helping his case. He was 1 of 6 for 4, 6, and 2 in 15 minutes. But if these guys start to prove themselves, Carter-Williams and Grant, Hoiberg has shown an ability or some balls, I guess, to sit Rondo in the fourth quarter. Didn't do it in this one, but it is a real risk for Rondo's minutes moving forward. The fact that he's not good. Robin Lopez has been terrible recently. 12 and 5. Look, the fantasy stats are fine. 12 and 5 here in 31 minutes with 2 blocks. But you have to think with the way that the Bulls, they should have got beaten by the Nets here, that without Lin, that you have to think that maybe we see some limits on Lopez, especially against some teams with some stretchy bigs, and that allows more Gibson, Mirotic front courts. 12 and 5 with 2 blocks is good for Lopez, but again, if the minutes come down, then he's not going to be in a position to actually get those sort of a numbers. So that's something we have to monitor. Taj had 8 points, but 2 steals and 2 blocks was nice for Taj. Well, Mirotic played 25 minutes with Doug McDermott back, so it's better than the 21 that he was getting before. Still not quite where we want it. 7 and 4 with 3 blocks, only 1 of 7 from the field. Yeah, he's in that, let's see what happens in a 12-team league, let's add and let's see where it goes. But given the issues defensively with Lopez, I can see some Gibson guarding 5s, Mirotic spacing at the 4, and instead of 21 a night, maybe he gets to 26, maybe he gets to 27, and that becomes really useful. I don't really see the Bulls needing 30 minutes of Doug McDermott. 7 and 4 for Dougie in those 30, and you should be looking at him in very, very deep leagues only. He is a very, very poor, or some would say putrid, fantasy contributor. Let's talk about the Clippers and the Pelicans. Chris Paul was ruled doubtful earlier in the day. The old switcheroo from the Clippers, he was back in the lineup. 31 minutes for Paul due to some sort of minutes restriction that Doc released after the game. 21, 8 and 6 for Chrissy. 2 triples and a steal, so he's back in business. But it didn't mean the end of Austin Rivers, because Rivers started next to Chris, Played 32 minutes in JJ Redick's spot, 22 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals and 2 triples. And for as frustrating as Rivers can be, this is something that's evident from him across the last few seasons. When he plays, stats will come. Whether it is replacing Paul, whether it's replacing Griffin, whatever it is, stats will come. I don't think that he's really a 12-team league guy, but he's only 8% owned. So anything deeper than 12s, you have to own him. And yes, Redick will come back, but I still think you're going to see a fair chunk of Rivers replacing Griffin, because the two guys replacing him at the moment, Wes Johnson and Brandon Bass, didn't do a huge amount in this game. Bass 7 and 4, while Wes had 2 and 8. And Rivers has been productive at times. So he's a name to watch in 14-teamers. DeAndre Jordan pulled down 25 boards, had 13 points and 2 blocks, so a decent night there, while Mo Spates did his little cameo, I guess. 11 points. He had 2 blocks, he had 2 triples, and he shared the court with DeAndre as well for about 8 minutes too, so played a little bit of the 4 also. Leave him for the deeper sort of formats though. The Pals, Timmy Frazier, completely out of the rotation. Get rid of him. He is done. They're just not using him at this point. They're going with Bud. They're going with Drew. They're going with Etuan. They're going with Tyreek, Langston. All those guys are going to get minutes over Tim, so there's no spot for him anymore. And with Tyreek looking very spry today, if you own Timmy in a 10, a 12, and dare I say it, even a 14-team league, you might have to give him the treatment. Let's talk about these Pelicans guards. Bud Hield had 17 points in 23 minutes on red-hot shooting, 7 of 11 from the field, hit 3 triples, had 6 boards and 2 steals. And I will get the Bud questions coming, I know. Do we pick him up? My answer is no. He is just going to be a 3-point contributor. It is coming on some ridiculously hot shooting over the last couple of weeks, and I don't think he should be a high priority target. I reckon his upside is maybe top 110, maybe. And it's going to rely on some pretty good shooting. So it's nice while it's happening and it could be streamed, but he's far from a guy I'd sacrifice much to get. Anthony Davis struggled a bit, 20 points, 5 boards, 3 steals and 2 blocks, and when he has a struggle night and can still do that, that's pretty decent. They still went with the Dante Cunningham, Solomon Hill starting combination, 6 and 9 for Dante Cunningham.
Giggity!
2 triples with a steal and a block, and he is a 16-team league guy, while Solly Hill is barely that, 5 and 4 in his 24 minutes. And Terrence Jones, people are still holding Terrence Jones in 12-team leagues. Stop it. There's no need to own him in 12-team leagues. Lang Galloway, 31 minutes for Galloway. Seems a lot. I do think Galloway is a decent player, but just seems like a lot of minutes for him. 31 for 12 and 4 with a 1-1, so some decent numbers, not really approaching standard league value. While Tyreek, who I did touch on before, only played the 16 minutes, so he's still a fair way away from full minutes, but if a bloke came in and played 30 minutes and gave you 12, 5, and 5 with 2 triples, you'd say, shit, man, that's pretty good. I'll own that. Well, he did it in 16. I don't think it's fair to expect that every time he goes out there and plays 16 minutes, but his upside is tremendous. It's top 50. There's no doubt about that, and he looks very spry. And it might be 2 weeks, might be 3 weeks before we get 27-minute Tyreek Evans. But competitive leagues, you need to make the move a week in advance a lot of the time. So Tyreek's around. He's only owned in 54% of leagues. Go and have a look. See how you are placed. Are you in a real battle for wins? Can you afford a guy that will have some rest days and have some limited minutes? If you can, grab him, because it really could be a huge sort of bump, I guess, for him. For your team, I guess, moving forward once we head into fantasy playoffs time. The next game, the Phoenix Suns and the San Antonio Spurs. TJ Warren, 34 minutes off the bench. He has to be owned. It's clear as day. 23 and 6 with a 1-1. Don't know why he was ever dropped. Own him everywhere. PJ Tucker, only the 16 minutes starting. I don't care that he starts. It doesn't bother me. There's no need for him to start. Warren's the guy, Warren's the man, Warren is the one on the wing that they need to develop, and Earl Watson's doing that, so kudos goes to Earl for doing that. Took a couple of games, but we're back in business with TJ Warren now. Tyson Chandler still starting, 25 minutes for Tyson, 4 and 7, but he got outplayed by Alex Len here, 6 and 5 in 20 minutes. Need to see more Len, and that could be coming. So Len is definitely a name to watch in your standard leagues, whereas Chandler's a tough own. Speaking of tough owns, Devin Booker was not at his best. 2 of 13 from the field, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. So did some stuff peripherally, but wasn't a great shooting night from Devon. He also was 0 of 2 from 3. Marquise Chris, 13 points in 21 minutes, a nice showing. 2 boards, a 3, a steal. Look at him as a 16-team guy. The guy you want to be looking at and the guy you want to be getting interested in is Dragon Bender.
Bite my shiny metal ass.
26 minutes for Bender for the second game in a row. 10 points, 2 triples, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block. Now, if we look at the smallest of small sample sizes the last week, Dragon Bender is a top 30 player. Yep. In 26 minutes a night, he's a top 30 player. It's unrealistic for him to continue to do that. He was a perfect 4 of 4 from the field. But I love what he does defensively. He is very, very smart on the court, great positioning, a very good passer, and the dude is young. He is as young as anybody in the NBA, and needs to be getting these minutes moving forward. Jared Dudley, consequently, has been a DNP-CD these last 2 games. Has Earl Watson flicked the switch? Has he unleashed his dragon? Sounds really rude, but is it Bender time? And as I talked about earlier on with Brogdon, you might need to make an early out on Bender. I think it's probably pushing it in 12-team leagues, but anything deeper, you've probably got some. Well, you should have some trash on your bench. You'll have one guy there that is not setting the world on fire. Grab him. Let's see where this goes, because it's been 2 games. It's been 26 apiece. It's been beautiful production. It's probably not quite sustainable, but he's good. And my early season prediction was that after the All-Star break, he would be the starting power forward on this team ahead of Marquise Chris. Well, I got that wrong because Chris started already, but my prediction that he is the better player is still very much in play. So I would seriously be considering it and having a look at my team, because sometimes you take a flyer on these guys, and post All-Star, which is a fair way away still, we're talking 6 weeks away, he might come in as a top 70 guy in that stretch. It's a possibility. The Suns team's going nowhere, and Earl flicking that switch, limiting Tyson, limiting Tucker, DNP CDing Dudley. It's a pretty decent step in the right direction. For the Spurs, LaMarcus Aldridge doesn't miss anymore, apparently. 10 of 12 from the field for 27 and 8 with a steal and a block. Earl Watson loses points for saying that LaMarcus Aldridge is the best power forward in the game, so that reduces some of his credibility. But these last 2 games, Aldridge has been on fire. This one in Christmas, he's missed about 6 shots in total across the 2 games. And while what we saw earlier on from him probably wasn't a fair representation, these last 2 games are definitely not a fair representation. Nobody shoots like this. But he's pushing forward, and maybe we have a second half surge where he becomes a top 40, a top 30 guy again. It's looking much more promising for Aldridge. We must remember that Kawhi Leonard was out of this game. He was out due to gastroenteritis. Another guy with a pants shitting issue. Just seems to be happening quite a lot in the NBA. Not really sure maybe they're not cooking their chicken enough. As for Aldridge, let's just see where it goes, because it has been a significant turnaround, but it is just the 2 games. Manu was great. Not even great. He was amazing. 12, 5, and 3 for Manu, but 2 triples, 2 steals, 3 blocks, and dunks in under 20 minutes. Crazy night. Manu's a really good 16-team league guy, and he's owned in 6% of leagues, which is way too low. He is always way too lowly owned. Always. And you might even consider sneaking him into a 14-teamer. Probably not, but you might. Also, a very prototypical Danny Green night, 11 and 3, but 3 triples, 4 steals, and 1 block. And this is what made all fantasy basketball people fall in love with Big Dan, is his ability to not only triple 1, but to triple 1.5 as an average sort of a guy. And he's been nowhere near that the last couple of years, but been much improved this year compared to what we saw last season. I still don't believe he's an absolute must-own 12-team league guy. He's a borderline guy and not a 10-team league guy either. Tone Parker also resurging, 20 points in 29 minutes on 16 shots. And this is why I'm not all for Patty Mills as a must-own guy, because these occasional Parker games will come, and that meant the Mills played 16 minutes and went 6-3-2. And to me, that's not a must-own 12-team league guy, having a bloke that could have a situation where he's limited like that. With the emergence of DeJounte Murray as well now, not saying that Murray is taking Mills' job or cutting into his playing time, but if they're thinking we have to give Murray more minutes, then 2-3 minutes maybe comes off Mills, maybe it comes off Parker, but it caps what they can do. Parker is not a 12-team league guy. Mills is not a 12-team league guy. Murray clearly isn't, but I've got really high hopes for Murray, fantasy-wise, dynasty, maybe as early as second half next season. Maybe. Again, Parker's old, Mills is a free agent. He could move into a backup role next season. Murray, play a 20-minute a night, play Mills' role. That he could potentially do that, and then take over the following year. That's a real path for him, especially now. And you've got to look at these moves they made. Nicholas Laprovitola, gone. It's all on you, Murray. Now, it's not a big job, but he's gone from 4th point guard to 3rd. Actually, he went from 5th to 4th to 3rd, with Bryn Forbes ahead of him. And now they've gotten rid of Laprovitola. So there's something there. There's definitely something there to look at. Kyle Anderson started in place of Kawhi Leonard and put up 0 points. He had 4 boards and 5 assists, and I thought he'd take a step forward this year. He has taken a significant step back. He was 0 of 6 from the field and looked quite useless, as he has done for lots of chunks of this season. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets got a big victory here. Let's talk Rick Rubio. 34 minutes for Rick, 18 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals. Rubio is a top 25 player over the last 2 weeks, including his field goal percentage. Take that away, we're talking a top 15 sort of a guy. He was only 5 of 14 here, but went to the line 7 times, hit all 7 of them, and of course, 8 boards, 7 assists, 4 steals. We're getting back to Rubio of old, a 9 assist, 1.5, 2 steals type of guy, giving you back the value of what you drafted after some hiccups to start the year. And there's numerous reasons for this. There's bad coaching, and there's players getting used to new systems, and both of those things were in play here in Minnesota. So he's humming, and you would feel fairly confident about him being a top 50 guy the rest of the way. Gorgie Jeng had a nice one, 20 and 8 in 39 minutes with a steal and a block, while Karl Towns triple-doubled, 15, 11 and 10 for Townsy with 2 blocks. Wasn't an efficient night, 7 of 17, but still, when your big man's dishing 10 assists, it's fairly impressive. Wigo had 25 points with 2 steals on only 20 shots, so a good night there, and Zachy Levine, 17 with 5 assists. So as usual, big nights from the starters, absolutely nothing from the bench. Chrissy Dunn had 2 points in his 14, Shabazz Muhammad had 5, and Cole Aldrich and Nemanja Bjelica combined for 1 point. The bench doesn't play much, but they also don't produce much when they play, which is great for the fantasy value of those 5 guys. And my preseason prediction is the Timberwolves would have 5 top 50 players. We're not quite there yet. We're not far off it though. We've still got a chance for that to come true. On to the Denver Nuggets. Nick Jokic, he's pretty good.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, he is. Thanks, Larry. 16, 8, and 11. So you have a center that gets 10 assists, and then the opposition center gets more. So the two centers, let's try the 2 second-year centers in this game combined for 31 points. They combined for 19 rebounds. They combined for 21 assists and 3 blocks. Jokic was doing things that it's probably illegal in a few countries, a few of those military type deals where there's bans on pornography. Some of that footage, it's going to have the black bars over it, like or the fuzzy star or the stars on nipples. It'll just be like that across the ball when Jokic takes it across. It dribbles it behind his back across halfway, then heaves a half court overhead pass to a guy streaking. He was ludicrous again. And I guess the main impetus of me saying that we're going to look back on this season at the end and go, what were these coaches thinking? And we're going to look back and go, why was Michael Malone not playing Jokic? Why was he not doing it? It makes no sense at all. Why would you have Jokic and then play Nurkic and Fareed over him? It is ludicrous. It should almost been immediate grounds for firing. But Malone, 6 weeks into the season, realised what every one of us could see heading into the year, that Jokic is their best player, or he was potentially going to be their best player. Gallinari is probably still that guy, but is Jokic their best player now? don't know. It's pretty close. His fantasy ceiling is through the roof. It is top 15 ceiling in 30-plus minutes. The foul trouble is the real issue with Jokic. If he stays on the court, though, he's getting 30-plus. That's the way it is these days, and that's fantastic. The Rooster was good. Aggressive hairstyle. 18-5-2 with 2 triples there when Wilson Chandler had a game-saving block. Went 17-7 with 3 triples, a steal, and a block. A real recovery after a real stinking patch of games for Wilson. Not a must-own 10-teamer, I don't think, but a 12-team guy you want to hold. Also good to see a good Gaz Harris game. 29 minutes for Gaz, 17-4 with 2 triples. He was great when he came back and then dipped a little bit, and a few people doubting his abilities. So good for him to get that back. He should be owned everywhere. And when Jokic gets it going, or when Jokic stays in, not when he gets it going, when he's able to stay in the game, and when Harris plays solidly, there's nothing for Fart and Will Barton. There's nothing for Ken Fareed. Barton played 19 minutes and scored 6 points. Probably because he's not good. My opinion. Yeah, he has been great. He's been playing 30-plus the last couple of games and putting up good numbers. But he is as streaky and inconsistent as they come, and he's not in their long-term plans. I am 100% convinced of that. It's Harris, it's Murray, it's Moutier. It's not Barton. His future role is a 20-minute backup swingman. That's where it sits. You can own him in 12s. In 10s, I wouldn't. You can in 12s, but if he got dropped to my waiver wire, I wouldn't be scurrying to get him. I just don't see I don't see any sort of upward trajectory on him. As for Fareed, 6-5 in 16 minutes, another example of why I don't think that he is a must-own guy. And we had Yusuf Nurkic coming back, which is good. He looked energetic. He provided a lot of defensively. 9 minutes, 4-4. But the thing that pisses me off about this, 2 things, is Malone yesterday. You know, what are you going to do with the rotation? Nah, not changing it. Really happy with the 9-man rotation. Love this 9-man rotation. I won't be changing a thing. The very next day, changes a thing. Like, why even say that? Just say, we'll see how it goes. Say that, and we'll go, I'll give it an answer, Malone, but whatever. Don't come out and be explicit. I'm not changing it. 9-man's, bang, this is it. It's not changing. And then the very next day, change it. I know it's his prerogative to do it. And Nurkic should be ahead of the rotation, ahead of Fareed in the rotation anyway, in my opinion. But he should not be taking minutes off Jokic. If you want to play Jokic 34, you can give Nurkic 14 as the backup center. I don't think there's any situation where Fareed should ever be playing center, ever. Play him as the backup 4. Play one show ahead of him. All this goes back to me saying, no Fareed in 12s, Nurkic, a good showing, but yeah, late in the game, again, they took Jokic out, put Fareed back in after Nurkic had played so well in the first half. So Malone obviously not 100% sold on what he was doing for whatever reason. So not a lot to love there, but there is still some dynasty currency in Nurkic. He can be much better than this. He could be a top 60 guy in a role where he's given that opportunity, but getting to that is going to be the tough thing, I think. Sacramento and Portland. Boogie Cousins took on his rival Myers Leonard in what is the weirdest rivalry in the world. 28, 8-6, 3 triples, 2 steals and a block. A decent night from Boog. There was no Rudy Gay, who had another MRI on his hip. It doesn't appear serious, so that's good news. Matty Barnes started in his place, and Barnesy did basically what we hope he can do on a more regular basis. He just has been really inconsistent. 13, 5-2 with a 111, and that sort of numbers, or those sort of numbers, is a real 12-team league sort of guy. It just doesn't happen often enough. Omri Caspi only the 14 minutes, so Barnesy looks to be ahead of Caspi at the moment. And in the second half, the Kings changed their rotation. They took Darren Collison out and they started Ty Lawson. They took Costa Koufos, and let's just acknowledge the fact that the Costa Koufos DeMarcus Cousins starting pairing is ridiculous, and I can't believe it is still going. It is ridiculous. Ridiculous, man. I can't believe it's still going. Anyway, back to Collison. Benched for Lawson in the second half. Both guys were shit though. 6-5 for Collison, 8-1 for Lawson. 29 minutes for Lawson is important, 20 minutes for Collison. That's the difference there. That's where you look at it and go, okay, it's happening for Lawson. 4 out of 5 games he's getting more minutes. Are they must-own guys, either of them? No. In a 10-team league, I wouldn't own either of them. In a 12-team league, I could see owning both. I would pick up Lawson, and I would maybe still hold Collison in a 12-teamer. But it's looking pretty piss poor at the moment, and if I was wanting to take a stab at someone, And if I need to roll the dice to get some numbers happening immediately, then he can go. He's almost no doubt the worst player on your roster. But it's been a real disappointment for him so far this season. Garrett Temple was decent as well, 14 points with a couple of steals and a couple of threes, leave him for the 16-teamers. For the Blazers, Alan Crabb stepped up, finally 13, 2 and 2, 2 steals, a block, and 3 triples for Crabby. That's fine, but he's not really approaching standard league value to me. Well, Evan Turner, in a nice Evan Turner game, he started off the season abysmally, but has picked it up a lot. 11, 6 and 4 with a steal and a block in 30 minutes. A real 14-team league sort of guy who can absolutely be streamed in 12s. 12 and 4 for Moe Harkless with 2 triples, a decent night there, while Mason Plumlee only played the 23 minutes, but had 12 and 14, so still got it done. Myers Leonard, against his rival, had 16 points in 25 minutes, 3 triples and 5 rebounds, but there is no way you can rely upon Myers Leonard, same as you can't rely on Noah Vonleh or Ed Davis, who was a DNP city. There is no rhyme nor reason to what Terry Stotts is going to do with these front court backup players. Al-Farouq Aminu, 31 minutes for Aminu, 8, 7 and 2. I do still think that he is a 12-team league valuable guy, while CJ McCollum's shot was not there, 6 of 18. Still had the 20, still had 2 triples, still had 7 assists, but it wasn't his best night efficiency-wise. The last game of the night was the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. DeMar DeRozan, very DeRozan-y, 29, 5 and 6, 3 steals. Actually, 3 steals and a block, that's not DeRozan-y, so contributing in multiple categories, while Kyle Lowry was great as well, 27, 6 and 11 with 2 triples and 5 steals. And Damari Carroll played 28 minutes. Normally when he gets the 28 minutes, it means a rest is incoming, so tomorrow is a back-to-back for Toronto, so I imagine that Damari is out. Welcome Norm Powell. 13 and 7 for Damari, 3 triples, 3 steals, 2 blocks, so a really huge night for him. He's been disgustingly bad for nearly all season. The upside is there, or is it? What's his upside? I think his upside's top 90 maybe, and is that worth going through weeks of value outside the top 150? I'm not sure that it actually is. Terrence Ross, better player than DeMario Carroll. 34 minutes for Rossi, 24 and 7, 4 triples and 2 steals. Really picked his steal rate up this season, Ross, and has been a much improved player. Has been really good. So Terry has been really good for the Raptors this season. He is just a 3-point streamer, but he gets lots of them, and that can be really useful, and a standard 14-team league sort of a bloke. The Warriors center issue nipped Jonas Valanciunas in the bud. 21 minutes for Jonas, 7 and 5 with a block, while Bebe played the 17 and had 5 points, a steal and a block. The Pascal Siakam starting charade continued. Why? I don't want to get too emotional or too worked up, but this bullshit of we have to keep our second unit together is the biggest farce in the NBA. So you can start Siakam for 4 minutes, but he doesn't play the rest of the game, so that when he comes out, like Patrick Patterson comes in, and guess what? Patterson plays with the starters. He's not anchoring the bench unit. He's playing with the starters. When you're getting your ass kicked to start the game, and Casey did this all last season with Luis Scola, play him. This is not hockey lines. It is not like I need him on the second line to play, to run things there. You're playing 30 combinations, 20 combinations a game. They mix up. Start your best players. Get them out there. Don't get yourself in a hole. It's beyond a joke. Siakam, for all his energy, starting a guy for 4 minutes is the biggest waste of time I've ever heard. Just cut it out. For the Warriors, talked about Durant already. Draymond, 14, 6 and 10 with a Richie Beno, and Steph had 28, 7 and 7. Steph always puts together some pretty big games against the Raptors. Wasn't quite a huge one, but still a nice performance, while Clay had 21 and 6. Andre Iguodala didn't miss a shot, hit all 5 of them for 11 points, just chalked that one up to a fluke, and as per usual, not a lot happening on the Warriors bench. Alright, that is all of Wednesday's action. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to be back to preview the 6 games that we've got on Thursday from a DFS point of view. Ladies and gents, we are back. Let's talk DFS now. Let's talk the perfect lineups. On FanDuel, Johnny Wall had 61.7 and Kyle Lowry had 51.7. So a big high-powered backcourt there. At the shooting guard spot, good luck to you if you slotted in Manu Ginobili, who had 32.5, and DeMar DeRozan 48.8. I think picking DeRozan, Lowry, and Wall weren't too tough to sort of work out. At small forward, Jim Butler at 64.2, and the Terrence Ross was a little fluky, considering he was questionable heading into the game with that sore wrist. Power forward, Jabari Parker 53.3, and Toby Harris 38.4, and at centre, punt away with Joakim Noah at 42.7 for a total of 431.2. That lineup came in $600 over or under maximum at 59,400. On DraftKings, we had Johnny Wall at 67.25, Manu at 33.75, Jim Butler 68.25, Jabari's at 56.25, Noah 45.5, Rubio 45, Teza Ross at 40.25, and Kyle Lowry at 57.5 for a total of 413.75, and that used all $50,000 over on DraftKings. Let's talk about the games now that are occurring on Thursday. There are 6 of them. The first one is the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are favoured by 6, and the total is a pretty disappointing 199 points. Injury-wise, there's a lot of injuries that are going to be a real pain in the ass on this slate. Let's hope we get some clarification early. For this one, we're talking Goran Dragic, who missed the last game with back spasms. He is questionable, and Marco Bellinelli, who's missed the last couple with his ankle sprain for Charlotte, and they do both have an impact. Obviously, Dragic has the bigger impact, but Bellinelli out means that you can look at Jeremy Lamb and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist as options. With Dragic out, then we get more value in Joshie Richardson, Justice Winslow, and Tyler Johnson as well. Let's talk point guards in this one. Kemba Walker's at 7,600. He is coming off a back-to-back, but it wasn't an overly taxing back-to-back against Orlando. The travel is still an issue. The matchup is not fantastic. I think he's decent as a tournament punt, but I wouldn't be really loving him in any sort of cash game format. But he is definitely an option. He's more of an option on FanDuel to me than he is on DraftKings, where he's $200 cheaper on FanDuel. On the other side of things, Goran Dragic at 7,300, a really tasty matchup if he happens to play. Point guards against Charlotte normally do very well. They've got a very good ease ranking. Let's just hope that he can go, and then he would become an option to me, even in a cash game situation. His numbers recently have been okay, averaging 36 over the last 5, and at 7,300 over on FanDuel. That's some pretty good numbers, and his price is a little bit depressed on DraftKings too. He's down to 7,000, so he'd become an option on both of those sites. 5,600 for Tyler Johnson's not something I'd care for on FanDuel if Dragic plays. And to be honest, it probably is a little bit high even if he's out. He only played 30 minutes in the last game and put up 24 points. And yeah, he can be better than that, but that price is just a little bit too excessive. Shooting guards, Joshie Richardson had 34.5 in the last game. He's at 4,400. He's absolutely worth a look. He's worth a punt if Dragic happens to be out, and we can only hope that his shooting issues were fixed, and it's something that's going to continue. Let's hope. That's why he's a tough play in cash, just because we don't know what we're going to get. On the other side, Nick Batum's at 7,600. He's just crushing it. He's averaging 45 over his last 3, over 40 over his last 5, and a $7,600 price tag on FanDuel is not excessive. He's at 78 on DraftKings, which is still okay, but it's not ideal. I wouldn't be reaching for him on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I like the $200 discount that he gets there, and that makes him a good guy to have a look at. 3,700 for Jeremy Lamb, averaging 18 over the last 3 with Bellinelli out at 3,700, and that gets it done. And that, if you're so in a situation where you need some cash because you're rostering Westbrook, for example, Lamb might be that guy that might get you 20 and cost you less than 4,000. So he becomes useful in that sort of a scenario. Scooter Magruder, if he starts, what's he going to do? Nothing is generally the answer, and Wayne Ellington's not going to get enough minutes to matter. Justice Winslow at 5,100. I like him with or without Dragic. He had a little bit of a disappointing night in the last one, just the 21 points, but is averaging 28 over the last 5, and that 21-point performance was his lowest performance in those last 5 games. So he's been pretty good, but gets a bit of a bump if Dragic is out. Now at 5,600 over on DraftKings, probably pushing it a little bit, to be honest. I'm not sure that I'm all that interested in that extra price that he is over there. Other small forwards, Ballinelli, no, I don't think we'll be using him. Mick Kidd-Gilchrist at 47, yes if Ballinelli's out, no if Ballinelli plays. And James Johnson's at $5,000. Now, Johnson's averaging almost 30 points in the last 3, had 26 in the last game, but he is strictly a GPP guy. I don't really think that you can trust Jimmy Johnson in cash. At power forward, speaking of not trusting, Marvin Williams is at 4,400. The matchup is difficult. The upside, though, is decent for Williams. So I think he has GPP tournament style value, but really nothing for cash. Frank the Tank, Derek Williams. Williams started the last game, but it gave 12 points, and I think that's probably what you can expect more of. At centre, I like the value of both blokes here. Cody Zeller is at 5,200. Limited a bit today, only the 20 points, but that's fine. He's averaging 28 over the last 3. And no reason why he doesn't get you 25 to 26 here, making him a pretty decent cash guy. But if you want to spend up at centre, Hassan Whiteside's the one to go for. 8,900. Centres can put up big numbers. We saw Vucevic do that today against Charlotte. He was a little bit disinterested in the last game. I think that's probably fair to say. But with a $300 price cut over on FanDuel and an $8,600 price tag over on DraftKings, I think that Hassan Whiteside, if you're spending up at centre, he's one of the better options that are out there. And it is a 6-game slate, so there might not be as many spots to spend your cash. So I do like Whiteside. The next game we'll take a look at, what are we looking at? We're looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Memphis Grizzlies. Oh, no, we're not. We won't go to that one yet because my screen has cut off again, as per usual. So let's go to Boston and Cleveland. All right, let's do that one. All right, the Celtics and the Cavs. We have got the Cavs favored by 6.5. The total is 215. Kyrie Irving is listed as probable. He's got an illness, so we're assuming that he is going to play. LeBron missed the last game. We're also assuming that LeBron will be back in business for this one, so it should be all systems go for Cleveland. No injury concerns with Boston at the moment, so that is good news there as well. Let's talk point guards. We'll start with Kyrie Irving, who's now at 8,300 over on FanDuel, which is not a price that I'm really loving totally, but it's also not terrible. He's averaging 45.5 over his last 3 games, averaging 46.5 over his last 5, which at 8,300 is worth it. And the Celtics are about an average team defensively against point guards, so that makes him marginally interesting. I still don't think that he's the best guy out there, but you might be in a spot where Dragic is out or Conley is out, and then the value plays look like the cheap guys, but you've got all this cash to splash around, and he might not come up as having the best ratio or the best value, but when you've got 5,000 extra cash left, then ratio of value doesn't necessarily come into play because you can put him in there and get his 40, and even if it comes in at 4.7x instead of 5 or 5.5, it's still more points than a 3,500 bloke coming in at 6x. And that is sometimes a thing that you need to work out. Isaiah Thomas has also had his salary rise by $500, so that is it's relatively expensive now, and it makes him again in a similar situation to Kyrie, just with both of them having such an increase in their salary. Tougher guys to roster on this slate. Now Thomas isn't as successful as Kyrie recently, averaging 37.5 over the last 3. He does get the benefit of matching up against Kyrie, so that's a positive for any sort of point guard. 8,400, I'm not sure I love it. At 7,700 on DraftKings, I can definitely get behind that. He's averaging 46 a game over on DraftKings. That is a good play, but it goes to show the different salaries and the different scoring structures, how much of a difference they can make. Love him on DraftKings, not so much over on FanDuel. Other point guards in this matchup are Marcus Smart. He had 31 in the last game. Has been playing really well. At 4,900, I think it's tough to expect it again, obviously. But in GPP, maybe. I will lean no, though. Shooting guards. Avery Bradley. He is at 6,700. The price just continues to stay up on FanDuel, and not only continues to stay up, it rose by $500. It's like they just continually overprice him. Yes, he did have 42 in that last game, but he's averaging 29 in the last 5. He's averaging 31 in his last 3. and 6,700 doesn't cut it. Now, the matchup is very good. That you can get some good value out of shooting guards that play against the Cavs. So that's a positive, but I really just can't see myself using him. 6,100 on DraftKings is not bad. It's definitely more in play there. That's a $600 discount compared to FanDuel, and he's more in play over on that site. Small forwards, Jay Crowder at 5,300. No, I'll say no. I don't like him here. LeBron, what I do though, 10,300 for LeBron. He's back after a day's rest, or in fact 3 days rest. Hasn't played since Christmas. 50 points. It should be exactly what you're looking for LeBron James in this game here. Where are we? He's at 10,100 over on DraftKings as well, and is averaging 55 over his last 3. Yeah, on both sides, he can be used with fairly decent confidence. No other small forwards that really need talking about. Gerald Green I skipped over before. Any chance that he does that again? I will say no. At power forward, love Kevin Love here. Pun unintended. 8,300 for Lovey. He's averaging 41.5 over the last 5. And now he takes on Boston, whose front court is a little bit flimsy, to say the least, in terms of allowing fantasy stats. So I do really like him here. Channing Frye, no. Amir Johnson, he's at 4,100, and his play has been improving. He's been a lot better recently, Johnson. I think he's more of a desperation play, I really need to plug someone in, and maybe he gets me 20 points. That's sort of where I sit with Amir, but confidence-wise, I'm more confident with him now than I have been. But playing against the Cavs as a big man is a real struggle, and that's probably something that turns me away from him in most situations. At center, Tristan Thompson, 5,100. I don't think there's much upside in Thompson. I think he's an okay cash center, but I don't really see any sort of tournament upside for Thompson. Al Horford, 7,700. You can have that. There is no chance I will be dealing with that on FanDuel, especially against the Cavs. On DraftKings, 6,700. Much more interesting, much more appealing over there. He's averaging 35 over the last 5, and I could totally see Horford being used, but that extra $1,000 on FanDuel makes me just want to say no, thank you very much. Kelly Olynyk, no, he's just not going to get enough playing time, but we know that he can do stuff if the minutes were going to be there. They're just not going to be there, so unfortunately, that's a no from me. Let's go back to Oklahoma City and Memphis now. The Thunder are the Grizzlies are favored by 1.5, and the total here is a pretty limited 198.5. Mike Conley, another one of those point guards who sat out Monday's action, is questionable with his toe, so we don't know if he is going to be back. We assume that Chandler Parsons will be back after he missed the last game, but if you use Chandler Parsons in DFS, good luck to you, because he is producing fat buckets at nothing at the moment. Let's talk point guards in this one. Conley at 6,800. The matchup is beautiful going up against Westbrook. You can put up some good numbers, but at 6,800, how confident are we that he gets 34 minutes and gets 35 points? I think the answer should be not very. So not interested really in him. As for Russ, 12,500. On a slate like this, you basically have to play him. It's really tough not to. I'm happy that he's down from the 13,000 that he was at the other day. The 12,500 is much more palatable. On DraftKings, he is at 12,700, so he's more expensive, but the scoring system suits him over there so much more, averaging 71 over the last 5. So he is definitely a guy to look at. And in cash, it's going to be, I think you're going to see over 50% ownership for him in most of the big double ups for Russ. So it's going to be really hard to cash without having him in your lineup. GPPs, maybe it's a fade. Now, if Conley is out, Andy Harrison's the guy we've got to look for. He played 44 minutes in the last one. He's at 3,900 and dropped 30 points. I wouldn't expect 30 points, but even if you get your 23, 24, it's a win. So if Conley is out, then Andy Harrison comes in as a cheap point guard, and there aren't many good cheap point guards on this slate. In fact, there's none, unless some injuries start to go down, or we hear some guys ruled out. So Andy Harrison is the guy to look at here. Shooting guard Tone Allen's at 4,600. Feel much more better with him if Conley would be out. He put up 35 in the last game. 4,600 is okay. I'm not sure that there's much upside in that if Conley plays. If Conley is out, yeah, I'm all for Allen in both formats. Troy Daniels, no. Anthony Morrow, no. Alex Abrines, maybe. 3,500 for Abrines, minimum salary. Play him 24 minutes, get 18, 19 points. It's a possibility. It's not a great one, but it is a possibility. So just keep the name on the tip of your tongue. Small forwards, Andre Robertson, 3,700. He is averaging 13 points over the last 3, so not interested there. Jeremy Grant is a punt option, I believe, at 3,500. There is some interest in him. He's at 3,300 over on DraftKings, but hasn't really turned in big numbers. His highest score in his last 5 games is just the 18 points. But if he gets 18 at 3,500, he's done well. He is someone to consider without doing it all that much. Jimmy Ennis started the last game, didn't play enough minutes. There's no reason to use him anywhere. Vincie Carter and Chandler Parsons, I'll say the same thing about those blokes. Enes Kanter, on fire, averaging 28 over the last 5 and importantly 27 minutes. In the last 3, he's averaging 29 in 29. He is playing a team that is big. It's the Grizzlies. It's Zebo. It's Gasol. It's JaMychal Green. It's big. 5,400. Can he get 25 minutes? Can he get 26 minutes? If the answer to those questions is yes, then Enes Kanter is a good play. If you think he plays 18 minutes, then he's a tough guy to rely upon. He averages over a fantasy point per minute, so he only needs the 25 minutes to really get enough value back at 5,400. He's at 51 over on DraftKings, the same story. He averages well over a point per minute over on the DraftKings scoring. I think it's a decent matchup for him, so I do like Enes Kanter on this short slate here. JaMychal Green, I don't. He's at 4,800. That's not a 4,800 I want to spend. And 5,600 for Zebo. Just throw him in the Al Horford basket. Continually just seems to be priced too high. Now, he has been better. I'll give him that. Averaging 28.5 over the last 3. But some of that comes in games where Conley is out. And if Conley is out, I would look at it. But I wouldn't be all that enthralled with doing it. If Conley's in, I don't want to use him. 5,200 on DraftKings. He had some good numbers as well over there recently, but yeah, not a real player that's going to be stuck in my player pool. Center, Marc Gasol, $500 price rise and takes on Steven Adams. It's a little tough to spend 8,300 on FanDuel on Marc Gasol. Yeah, he had 51 in the last game with Conley out. He's averaging 40 over the last 5, but at 8,300, 40's not cutting it. I need more than that. And the Adams defense probably steers me away from using Gasol at that price point. He's a decent pivot away from Whiteside, if you want to go that direction. And the fact that he's risen by $700 on DraftKings is also fairly off-putting. He's 7,900 on DraftKings. He's averaging 43 over there. I can sort of see it, but I just don't see it as being a great option. Now, Steve Adams has had his salary drop by $300. He's at 5,400 on FanDuel. He's averaging 30 points over the last 3. The Gasol factor is a real issue here, though. He could get Gasol'd. We've seen plenty of people do that. Al Horford, the latest victim. I think that you look at Adams as a punty tournament sort of a center. Joffrey Lavergne is not going to have too much of a DFS impact, I don't think. The next game we'll take a look at, we're going to... Where are we? Toronto and the Phoenix Suns. All right, let's talk spread. The Raptors are favored by 8.5. The total is 220.5. Now, this could be a blowout, but it is a road back-to-back for the Raptors, so the Suns may be able to keep it close. Now, it is a back-to-back for the Suns, but they are at home, so hopefully they can keep it close, because there is some value in this, especially with such a high total. Injury-wise, the only thing we need to look at is Damari Carroll. We assume that he will be out, and that's going to unleash Norm Powell. We hope. But that's obviously subject to change. But we assume that Carroll is going to be out, as he has been every other back-to-back this season. We're not 100% sure of that, though. Maybe 20% sure. No, I'm not. I'll say 70. I'm 20% unsure. I'm 75, 80% sure. Who cares? I'm making up numbers. At point guard, Kyle Lowry, great matchup against the Suns, superb. 8,700 is far from superb though, but not. If you want to go away from Westbrook, then taking Kyle, I think, is probably a better option than, say, Kyrie, or a better option than Isaiah Thomas. In this matchup, I do feel that you should have a fair expectation of Lowry getting to 45 against Phoenix, and I think that will definitely work out well in your favor if he does that at $8,700. Over on DraftKings, Lowry is priced at 8,500. Probably a similar sort of situation for him there. Not quite as keen on him over on DraftKings as I am on FanDuel, though. For the Suns, Eric Bledsoe's at 8,000. That's a $500 price increase. Not happening. Not happening. Not against Toronto. Not with his recent form, averaging just 33 over the last 5. It seems a ludicrous price rise, and I want nothing to do with it. He has risen by 500 on DraftKings as well, and he's at 7,500. Equally, I want nothing to do with that in this matchup. Is that the other point guard? Oh, Corey Joseph. Yeah, not happening with him. Shooting guard. It's all about Norm Powell. If Carroll is out, we should be looking at big minutes for Powell. We've seen it from him plenty of times. He's a minimum salary guy. He should crush it if Carroll is out, because you're going to get 30 minutes out of Powell. That's what Dwayne Casey has done. Plays him 30 minutes and he produces almost without fail. So I do think that you've got to really look at him if Damari is out. On the other shooting guard, DeMar DeRozan, of course, 8,400. Had a nice game today. He's putting up solid numbers, and it's really hard to say anything negative about him from a DFS point of view. Maybe his ceiling's not that high, but I think it's a pretty decent spending of mid 8,000s in the dollars. Devin Booker at 6,100. Bad matchup, poor form. He's averaging 30 over the last 5, but the last couple haven't been great. The salary has jumped by $500, and that turns me off using him. He's at 6,300 on DraftKings as well, so that is even more of a turn off for me there. Brando Knight at 4,700. That's a $400 price rise. That takes him out of consideration outside of GPPs on FanDuel, and his salary's hasn't risen as much on DraftKings, hasn't risen at all on DraftKings. He's at 4,200. Still don't think it's really a great cash play in this matchup especially, but there is some GPP value there for Brando Knight. Small forwards, TJ Warren, 5,100, killing it. Had 34 today, 34 minutes, 5,100 is a real bargain. So yeah, continue to roll him out there. PJ Tucker, don't. And Terrence Ross had a monster today. He's a minimum salary player, a really good matchup. Just GPPs, though. I don't think you can really rely upon him in a tournament setting. At the power forward spot, Pat Patterson at 4,100. No, I don't trust him in cash. I think he's decent in a tournament with some upside, but it just doesn't happen often enough that he very rarely is in any of my lineups. The Dragon Bender, Pascal Siakam, Jared Dudley, Marquise Chris, Alex Len, they're all the other power forwards. Who would you take a look at? I think you have to take a punt on Dragon Bender. He's at 3,900. That's not true. You don't have to, but it would make sense to have a look at him and say, all right, well, let's bank on him getting 25 minutes, and maybe he turns that into 25 points or 22 points. And at 3,900 and 3,400 on DraftKings, it's worth it. Not cash though. I think it's just tournament, but there is obviously a nice trend there for him. Jonas Valanciunas at 5,700. I'm pretty okay with that in this matchup. I think he's a fairly decent chance to get at least 28 here, so don't mind it. There's always a little bit of risk with how he gets used. Bebe is at 3,900. I think Bebe's a good tournament pick, to be honest. I think that on the nights where they limit Valanciunas, and this is a team that's going to go big with centers, so we don't have to worry about them sitting these guys down and playing lots of Patrick Patterson. If Bebe gets 24 minutes, he can put up 24, 25 points, and at 3,900, that returns that value pretty comfortably. All right, let's move on to the next game. I didn't talk about Tyson Chandler. Don't use him. The next game we're up to is Philadelphia and Utah. Unfortunately, no Joel Embiid in this game, so that opens up opportunities for both Jali Okafor and Nerlens Noel. For Utah, Georgie Hill is questionable, so maybe we get George Hill back. If not, obviously we've got no Dante Exum. If not, we're going to have more Shelvin Mack, who really disappointed in the last game, but he would be worth a look considering his salary is dropped by $400. Let's continue with the point guards. Dropped by $700. Sorry, he's at $4,000 now on FanDuel, Shelvin Mack, and that would make him a really good play if George Hill happens to be out. On DraftKings, we're not looking at the exact same price. He's at $4,400, so it hasn't dipped quite as much, and that's less appealing over on DraftKings. For Philadelphia with the point guards, Sergio Rodriguez at $5,000, Spanish Chocolate. I reckon that's a very good play. Now, the Utah defense is a concern, but it's not a concern enough for me to think that he can't get 25. I think that he can. He's averaging 27 over the last 3, had 33 in the last game. I think he's a decent, cheapish type of guy without being spectacularly good. TJ McConnell is always a risky play. At shooting guard, Rod Hood has been putrid, averaging 3 points over his last 3 games. He's at 4,300. Strictly just GPP, hoping that he's got he lost a ton of weight with his illness, so that he's got no strength whatsoever. So that's part of the reason why he's been just so sucky lately. If you think he's got some of that back, which he may or may not have, sure, in a GPP, but otherwise I reckon it's a pretty clear steer clear for him. No Gerald Henderson for the Sixers, so we're going to get some more Source Castillo, and he's a minimum salary player. Is he going to be worth looking at? In a cash game, not a chance. In a tournament, maybe. But in the games where he's had to start, Source has really struggled, so that might be more of the same happening here. Small forward Bob Cubs at 5,200. The defense matchup here is not ideal, especially with a 5,200 price tag on FanDuel. But with him on DraftKings, his salary's dropped by $900. He's at 4,800 now, so I really do like him over there. I think that's tremendous value, even with the defensive issues of the Jazz. At 4,800, I think the Bob Cove can easily get 28, 29 points over on DraftKings and really return that value for you. So a real difference in the scoring there. Gordie Hayward at 7,800 on FanDuel. Great matchup, in form, love it. If you're not going to spend up for LeBron, taking Gordie Hayward at $3,000 less is definitely a really nice one to have a look at. And if you want to go cheap and go punty, if you think that maybe Rod is going to be limited, Joe Ingles is the one to go for. He's averaging 24 over the last 3 in 31 minutes. He's priced at 4,200. The matchup is good, and he's killing it. I wouldn't trust it because if he doesn't play enough minutes, it's not working out. But ownership will be low. What if he drops a 25 or 26, which might be enough to help you slide in LeBron or slide in Russ or slide in some of these other more expensive players, DeRozan or Whiteside, these sort of guys. Ingles might be that guy that you can come in there and get something out of. Power forwards, Derek Favors is at 4,600. Yeah, he's starting. Yeah, he got an increase in minutes. On FanDuel, I'm not 100% in love with it. It's a good matchup against Philadelphia, and I could totally see him being used in a GPP, but I just don't like the price. On DraftKings, he's at 3,900, so I love that. That's a fantastic price. That makes him a great GPP guy. It even makes him cash usable at that price. If he's going to start and play 24 minutes, he could easily exceed 25 points, like easily. Now, he only had 19 points in the last game, so that's not fantastic, but I really like Derek Favors on DraftKings. Dario Saric at $4,000 with Embiid out. We're not going to see the Twin Towers lineup. We're going to see more Ilyasova and more Saric at the 4. Now, Saric has played more minutes recently. Got 27 in the last game, averaging 23 over the last 5, and is starting to turn it on. At $4,000, I think he's a great GPP option with this extended usage and extended run that he's going to most likely get in this game. Ilyasova at 5,500. Yeah, he's going to be better, but yeah, it's an extra $1,500 over Saric, and I'm not sure how useful he's going to be at that extended salary, especially with a negative matchup. Nerlens Noel, 4,600. Just don't think he's going to get quite enough minutes to be impactful at 46. If it was 35, I would say sure. In a tournament, look at it. I just don't really love it at 46, which it is over on FanDuel. If we look on DraftKings, he's at 37, so it's becoming a little bit more appealing there, but obviously we'd only be looking at that in punt-type situations. 4,600 for Jalil Okafor. He'll be starting at center. He should be out. Now, he's got a risk of getting Gobert, an absolutely huge risk of getting Gobert, but at 4,600, I think you can take that risk, and I think that you should be able to look at him and go, that is a decent, cheap center that I can use. Gobert, I like the Gobert matchup here. 7,500 for him. His numbers have been alright, averaging, well, not alright, they've been bloody good, but they haven't really translated fantastically to DFS, averaging 35 over the last 5, but at 7,500 in the somewhat positive matchup, or a very positive matchup, I do like using him. He's at 7,400 on DraftKings, so I'm probably less enamored with him over there, but he's absolutely a guy that should be in play. Alright, let's round it out now with the last game of the night, and that is the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers are favored by 2.5, and the total is 203 points. We don't know if Andy Bogut is going to play. He's it's a back-to-back, so he may rest, especially given it's his second game back. And AJ Hammonds is the other one who's questionable, but we don't really care too much for AJ Hammonds in terms of his DFS potential. Let's talk point guards. Darren Williams at 6,400 was terrible in the last game, but now he gets the porous Lakers backcourt at 6,400. He is worth a look on FanDuel. He's not spectacular over on that site, but he does have some value there. If we look at him on DraftKings, he's at 5,900. I feel a lot better with him on DraftKings. I could totally use him there, and I think that he is a nice mid-priced point guard to consider. D'Angelo Russell has been struggling. He's at 5,500, and the matchup is fairly negative, but I do like him as a GPP guy here. I don't like it for cash. He's averaging 23 over the last 5, so it's not far off $5,500 worth of value, but his upside is tremendous. It's 30 points at least. He's at 5,300 on DraftKings again. The same story. He should be able to... Well, he's got a chance to exceed 30, even with the negative defense, but there's no reliability in it. He's got to be looked at as a GPP-only type of player. Jordy Clarkson at 46, I think we class him in the same zone. He's risen by $500 in salary, so that is far from appealing. And Devin Harris, I don't know why I mentioned him. I'm not going to be using Devin Harris. At shooting guard, Lou Williams, 5,700. Just feels a tad expensive in a negative matchup. It's not happening for me. Yeah, look, he does stuff well, and he had 26 points in the last game, but at 5,700, that's sort of what he needs to get, and he's just not quite at that level just at this moment. Wes Matthews at 5,500, averaging 27 across the last 3. Positive matchup for him. I don't feel great about using him. Same with Uncle P. I feel much less great about using Nick Young. Seth Curry at 4,300. I don't like that price. That's not an appealing price. He's averaging 23 in the last 3. It's okay, but it's yeah. I think we can pass on Seth in both FanDuel and DraftKings. He is a bit more appealing on some of the Aussie sites we'll talk about later. The Pencil, 6,300. Don't love it when... If Bogut and Dirk are both playing, if Bogut is out and if Dirk is at centre, then the Pencil at 6,300 is definitely worth a gamble, I believe. Luol Deng at 5,100, so that's a bit of a price rise, but I don't really care too much. I think he's value. I think you should be looking at 25 out of Lu Deng. He's at 5,500 on DraftKings, and that is where I draw the line. That is too expensive. And I don't think that we should be looking at Lu Deng over on that site. Brandon Ingram, nothing happening there. Dorian Finney-Smith, he will probably start if Dirk happens to be out, but he produces nothing despite having the DFS initials. Justin Anderson was big in the last game, but that's as fluky as they come. Maybe you want to take a punt because we saw that he could do it, and maybe he maintains a more solid rotational role. Julius Randle's at 6,600 on FanDuel. He's been killing it. He's averaging 36 over the last 5, and normally I'd say 6,600 is just too high, but the way that he's playing without Larry Nance, he is worth a look. Now, he is somewhat inconsistent, and by somewhat I mean a lot, but I think that he's got things rolling at the moment, and he's worth a look. I'm not against it. Tom Robinson at 3,800. Not loving it on FanDuel, but at 32 on DraftKings, I think there's absolutely a reason to consider him. He's averaging 19 points over the last 3. He hasn't seen his role really reduce that much since Randall's been back. So I think that there's absolutely tournament punty ability with Thomas Robinson in this one, which sounds weird. Dirk, we don't know what he's going to play minutes-wise, so that's a no. And Dwight Powell at 4,200. Again, the role is just so uncertain. The matchup's positive. I would throw Dwight Powell into a tournament, and maybe he has one of those fluky steals and blocks nights, but I wouldn't have confidence in it. Tim Mozgov, playing better. Without Larry Nance, he's getting some extra run. So 3,700 from Mozgov doesn't preclude him from being used. I think that you can consider him. Same at DraftKings at 3,400. Absolutely, if you're looking to go cheap at center with a potential spot, or with the extra 2-3 minutes with Nancy out. At Bogut, we won't be using, and Mejri, we're not going to really consider him either. All right, that's going to do it for all of the games. Let's just move now into the picks of the day before we wrap this up. On FanDuel, no cheap point guards I like on FanDuel, except if, say, Conley sits, then we've got Andy Harrison there. Kemba Walker's at 7,600 and Russ is at 12,500. For the shooting guards, Norm Powell at 35, Nick Batum 76, and DeMar is 84. The small forwards, Joe Ingles 4,200, Justice Winslow 51, and LeBron at 10,300. The power forwards, Dario Saric 4,000, Cantor 54, and Love at 8,300. And the centers, Jali Okafor 46, Gobert 75, and Whiteside at 89. On DraftKings, Shumpert at 37, Isaiah Thomas at 77, and Russ Westbrook 12,700. Shooting guards, Norm Powell 43, Lou Williams 52, and DeMar at 83. Small forwards, Bob Cove 48, Crowder 52, and LeBron at 10,100. The power forwards, Derek Favors 39, Julius Randle 65, and Love 82. And the centers, Jali Okafor 46, Enes Kanter 51, and 8,600 for Hassan Whiteside. Let's talk about the Aussie sites now. Seth Curry is at 38. Don't mind him as a punt on Moneyball. Kyrie's at 78 and Russ is at 12.5. The shooting guards, Normie Powell minimum, Nick Batum 72 and DeRozan at 8,000. The small forwards, TJ Warren 39, ridiculous. Gordon Hayward 7,000 and LeBron at 10.2. Power forwards, Derek Favors 39, ludicrous. Julius Randle 56 and Kevin Love 8,000. And the centers, Okafor 47, Enes Kanter 5,000 and Whiteside 92. On draft stars, Darren Williams 11.3 and Russ at 24.2. Shooting guards, Normie Powell 54, Joshie Richardson 81 and Gordy Hayward 15.350. The small forwards, Lou Deng at 7.950, Justice Winslow 88 and LeBronald at 20,200. Power forwards, Jeremy Grant 53, Julius Randle 11.3 and Kevin Love 16.150. And the centers, Amir Johnson 6.550, Enes Kanter 9.850 and Hassan Whiteside 15.3. We are done, guys. Don't forget, if you want to support the podcast, leave a review on iTunes. It's one of the best ways that you can help support the show. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_Beeble. And of course, follow Basketball Monster at BaskMonster. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Joel Embiid.